everyone. I wanted to do a tutorial for you guys on this, how to make this journal. I did this journal a few weeks ago, a couple weeks ago, and I've had a lot of people asking me how I made it. And there are a lot of tutorials online about how to make journals, and I kind of took a bunch of different things and combined them together and did my own thing with it. So I wanted to show you how I did this. It is, let me first show you, I'll zoom in a little bit and show you my journal. It's a little pocket journal. It is ATC size, so like artist trading card size. So all of the individual pages are they should be 2 in, they're 3.5 by 2.5 inches for each page. So it's a perfect little pocket size. I keep a little hair elastic around it to keep it together. You can just bring it with you wherever, and they're really fun to have around. So I thought I would show you all how I made this, and so let's start. I'm going to show you the inside of it. So this is the cover. I just have collaged a bunch of different elements on it that I really liked, that were inspiring to me. And then I've used watercolor paper inside of this. It is, where did I put it? It is this Canson watercolor, I'm zoomed in too far now, cold press 9 by 12 inch. You can use whatever size you need. 140 pound watercolor paper. I like this because it's fairly smooth. It doesn't have a ton of texture, but it has just enough, and both sides work really well with watercolor. So I picked that to use for this. So you can use whatever you want for watercolor paper, or different paper, whatever paper you want. So since it's watercolor paper, I have mostly been using watercolors inside of it. This one's all watercolors and Posca pen and Sharpie pen. And then these, I did a study, I was doing just monochromatic faces just to get used to shadowing. I have trouble with shadowing sometimes. So I did, and I have these two Daniel Smith colors. This one's Moon Glow, I think. Yeah, Moon Glow. And this one is Shadow Violet. And I couldn't really figure out what the difference was. So I wanted to do them side by side so I could see. And Moon Glow is still my favorite. It's so pretty. And then I did, this one's just in an inky blue color. And then I've just kind of started some backgrounds on these. And then you can see they're sewn. So I'm going to show you really quickly everything I used to make the basic, not the collage part, but just the actual base of your journal. So let me set this aside. So we have our watercolor paper. Let me zoom out so you can see. Okay. So we've got our watercolor paper. I used watercolor paper. This is just embroidery thread, or really fine. I don't think it's cotton. I'm not completely sure what it is. It might be silk or something, but I don't even know where I got it from. But it's really sturdy. So I just used this for the binding to put the pages together. And then a pencil, and I cut mine with scissors before, and I think I decided I'm going to do it differently today because I think it'll come out more even. So I have this quilting ruler thing, I don't know what it is, but it is exactly 3.5 inches wide. So using this, I can just cut it and it'll come out the exact size I need for this. So that's what I'm going to use. And I'm actually going to use my Rotary Cutter and a regular ruler and a rotary quilting mat, just a small one. You can use whatever size, but just to cut on so that it doesn't cut through my table. Let me move a few of my things here. We'll use those later. Okay. So I'm going to set this right out here to protect my space. And I'm going to cut them one at a time because I want to make sure that they're even. So I'm going to start by cutting sheets of 3.5 inch pieces and then go from there. So if I line this all up at the bottom evenly, like that, then I can cut it right up against the edge. And that's pretty close. I don't know why I didn't cut all the way through. It might be dull. I haven't used it in a long time. That's okay. Actually, give it a little bit of a torn edge, I guess. And then I'm going to do that again. Make sure it's lined up so that you don't end up with uneven pieces and they won't line up. This one a little harder this time. There we go. And you can use this scrap piece for whatever. You can make a really teeny tiny journal or whatever you want to do with your scrap piece. So let's cut out 2 more of that on this page. Okay, so now we have 4 sheets that are all, what, they're 3.5 by 15. So our book, each page section is going to be 5 inches across because we got 2.5 inches plus 2.5 inches. So what did I say? That was 15. So we should be able to get 3 exact pieces. I should have done this way the first time. I had so much waste the first time I did this. It was a mess. That's bugging me. Yeah, they're 15. So yeah, I can do divided by 3, right? Oh, that's a 12. Sorry, it looked like a 15 the way I was looking at it. Now I'm confusing myself. Okay, that makes more sense. So I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to mark these at 5. Make sure these are lined up perfectly and mark it at 5 inches and at 10 inches. And then the other side, I'm going to do the same thing. At 5 inches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I can just line these up right in the center of those lines. Sorry about my head if it's getting in the way. I'm going to keep cutting these. I'll speed through that part. Okay, so we have now, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pieces that are all the same size. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take each piece and we're going to fold it in half. You're supposed to use a bone folder for this, hold on, but I don't have one. Sorry, I need coffee. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a regular ruler for this because I feel like it's going to be more accurate. And it doesn't really matter which side you fold this on because you're going to end up using both sides anyway. So I'm going to mark this at 2.5 inches on the top and on the bottom. And the way I'm going to fold it, I'm going to take my big ruler. I'm going to line it right up against my marks so that it's centered really well. And then I'm just going to fold it up and press it against the line there. And that gives you a nice straight fold. And that should, it's pretty close. I mean, you're not going to get it perfect regardless of what you do. And then I'm just going to take, let's see, I really need to invest in a bone folder. What's this? I'm going to take the edge of something and just kind of fold these down nice and tight. So I'm going to do this for all of my pieces, and then I'll come back and lead you through the next part. Okay, so now we have all of our pieces all together, just like that. I had to fix that other piece because it was really bothering me. It wasn't even. So what we're going to do now is we're going to bind these together. There are lots of different ways to do that, but I also just realized my hand is really green and I don't want you to think there's something wrong with me. I was using some inks earlier and some ink sprays earlier and it got all over me and apparently they stain. So that's why that is. So you're not weirded out by that. Anyway, the way we're going to do this is we're going to bind each piece into two, as groups of two. There's a name for it and I can't think of the name of it right now. But it'll come to me, I'm sure. So what I did before that worked really well, I have, as you can see, I have 3 stitch marks on the inside. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 relatively evenly spaced holes. So we're going to mark this in 6 places. So it doesn't have to be perfect, but maybe at the 1/2 inch in on either side, or a little like 3/4 inch, something like that. And then in about the same space, about 3/4 of an inch, sorry, about 1/2 inch in from there, and then in the center, 1/2 inch in on either side. So that gives you 6 marks, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Each one is approximately 1/2 inch. It's not going to be exact, but that's okay. This will be our template. Can you see that? I'm going to zoom in for you, so because this part is kind of tricky. Okay. I'm going to move all of my extra stuff out of the way that I don't need anymore. Don't really need those anymore. Put them there just in case I need them again later. Okay, so this is going to be our template. And I'm going to mark this with pen so that you can see it a little bit better, what I'm talking about. Is that better? That's a little better. Okay, so instead of having to mark every single one, what I'm going to do is I'm taking my needle that I'll use to thread with. I still have thread on it from before. I'm going to take my needle, and I'm going to, it is just an embroidery needle, pierce it through each hole, kind of wiggle it around. Now, in order to get all of them lined up, you could measure them all out and mark each one and do each one, but it's honestly easier just to line them up, just like this. So you've got 2 stacked together, and just pierce through each hole that you've already done on your first card. Okay, so then I can just set aside each card, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through, and I'm going to do that with each one, and as I do that, I'm going to start my sets of 2. Keeping the one with the marks out as my reference so that they're all perfect, because if you don't use this one for all of them, if you're off on one, then it'll mess up all the rest of them. So keep this one that you had first. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to do that and then make sets of 2 stacked together until I'm done. I'll speed through that. Okay, so now we have, I remembered, I'm pretty sure that when the sets that you stitch together are called a signature. Not 100% sure about that, but I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. And the reason that we're marking each set individually and doing the holes is so that it'll make it easier when we go to sew. We don't have to guess or have to pre-measure where everything is. It's all there. So when we go to put the thread through, it's going to be a lot easier. So now we're going to start that process. We don't need that anymore. And I hope I do this the same way I did the first time. I kind of just did it however. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a nice big knot, wrap this around a few times on one end, but I'm going to leave a tail because I didn't leave a long enough tail last time, and I went to try to tie it together at one point, and it wasn't long enough to tie. I don't think you have to do that, but I wanted to kind of reinforce it. So I'm leaving a tail, and I'm making a nice big knot in this so that it won't pull through easily. I'm actually going to make it a little bit bigger. Sorry, hold on. So what we're going to do now is take our knotted thread and we're going to stitch these two, I have 2 pieces here, together, back to front. Well, outside to inside, I guess. There's really, sorry, I gotta make sure I'm in the view here. Move these up here so you can see. Outside to inside. So I'm going to go down through the outside and in through here. You see that? Pull it through nice and tight. Okay. I'm going to go back up through the second hole. Make sure you don't get any knots. I'm hoping that this length of string is going to be long enough. And then back down this way. We're just going to keep doing this all the way across. And this will hold these 2 pieces together. Make sure it's nice and snug. I don't want them to be loose in there. Okay. Come out to the end and pull through. And lay that flat, just like that. And there's your first signature. I apologize for any background noise. There's some loud people downstairs right now, and we live right next to a pretty busy intersection, so there's a lot of background noise. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm lining these up here, and I'm going straight, make sure that's tight. Let me zoom in just a tiny bit more. Okay. Where's my needle? Straight from this one, last one, into my, is that lined up? It should easily go through. If you have to force it through, then it's probably not lined up properly. And you're going to want to check to make sure it's lined up. It should just go straight through. I have an issue with this one for some reason. There we go. Yeah, that's right. Okay. All right. Outside to inside the same way. We're going to pull this part right here. Wrong way, sorry. Nice and snug. And come back inside and back up through here. Okay. Nice and tight, so these two are held together really well. And now what I'm going to do to hold these together, I'm going to loop, which way did I go? I'm trying to remember. I'm going across through this side, underneath my previous stitch of the other side. I think this is how I did it. Pull that up through this way, kind of creating a knot, and then through under this stitch here. I think that's how I did it. Let me double check. This is basically just creating a knot up here so it'll hold, and then hold on. Okay, sorry. Getting a lot of distractions. I thought I heard an accident outside with a lot of squealing. I thought I heard a crash, but apparently I did not. So, okay, back to where we were. You see that? My nasty green finger. Okay. So now I'm going to open this back up, and I'm going back down through this hole on this side. Don't worry about binding it with this side. It will be fine. Because because I'm going to do the same thing on the next one, and then as you go back and forth, it will reinforce each side. So now we're going to go back up through here. I hope this is, if you're understanding this. All right, back up through, pull it nice and tight, and I'm going the same way, okay? Under, nice and tight, under, pulling that through tightly, and then down this way, under everything. And then pulling, trying not to get that tucked in there, and then pulling that up nice and tight. See that? Okay. And then down through there. I'm sure there's an easier way to do this. I don't really do a whole lot of things easily. Okay. Back up through here. And this is what I wanted to do last time to reinforce this first section, but I didn't have my tail long enough. So what I'm going to do now, since I have a long enough tail, I'm going to tie these two pieces together. The tail of my knot in my last stitch here, just to reinforce this end over here. Tie it like 3 times just to make sure. This is all going to be covered later, so don't worry about if it looks sloppy. Okay, there, that's good. Okay, I'm gonna trim this down, maybe. I don't know where my scissors went. Okay, I guess I'm not gonna trim that down yet. Oh wait, there they are. Trim it down just a little bit so it doesn't get in the way. Okay, so now I'm gonna take my next signature and line it up with my previous ones. And I'm going to go down through the first stitch, always outside to inside first. Make sure it's not caught on that knot there. Come on. There we go. Okay. That. And then back up the second one. Now we're going to turn it this way because I'm going to make sure that's nice and tight pulled together. And then we're going to do the same thing as we did before. We're going to go under this stitch. If I can get it under there. Here we go. Under that stitch. Pull it tight. And then under this way. Just basically creating a knot. I'm not sure that it matters which way you go. I was doing it one way in my other one, and it was pulling all of this knot down this way, and so I felt like it wasn't going to hold very well, so that's why I'm doing it the direction that I'm doing it, because I feel like it's a tighter hold than if I was to come in from the other side. So now we're going to go back down through this side. And back up through, am I in the camera? No, I'm not. Okay. Back up through here. And again, holding it nice and tight together. Go under this stitch, up around, and back under this way to create your knot. And it's stuck. Keeps getting stuck. There we go. Pull it nice and tight. Down through here. Back up through. Where is it? There you go. There. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to loop through under this stitch here and back through here. Right there. So I went under my previous stitch and now I'm going back through this stitch to create a little X knot thingy there. So now we're doing our last signature. Last signature down through your first set of holes, maybe, and get it lined up. You know it's lined up if you can see light through, which helps a little. Okay. Pull that nice and tight. Make sure that's lined up really well. There we go. Up through here. And then, again, we're going to knot the same way we did in our previous signatures. Going over, under here. Nice and tight. And then through that stitch right there. To create your knot, nice and tight. And through there. Pull that nice and tight just to make sure that everything's going to stay where you want it to. And then back up through. Under and under. If it loosens up, that's okay. You can just pull it really tight when you're done. Which is why you want to make sure you're using really sturdy thread, because if it's old cotton thread, it might break. And that's what makes me think this is some sort of a nylon or a silk or something, because it's really sturdy and it hasn't broken at all. And then down through here and back up, and we're almost done with this part. Okay. And now I'm going to fold this up, pull it really tight. I'm going to go under this knot over here. This is going to be the end, so you want this part to be really sturdy. So I'm going to loop it under, probably do a couple knots just to make sure that it's not going to go anywhere. And then I'm going to go back through my loop and knot it really tight. And then I'm going to go and I'm going to do it again because I want this knot to be really sturdy. Not want this falling apart. Once we get all of our other layers on it, it's not going to fall apart very easily anyway, but I just want to be sure. I'm going to do one more just for a good measure. Loops under, come on, and pull through your loop. And then we're done with that stage. Snip it fairly short. Coffee. All right, now I'm going to get everything ready for the next stage of the binding, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I have all my stuff together to do the binding for this, because you'll see when you go through it, the pages that are stitched together are not very tight. And that's okay. That's just to kind of hold them. So it's really not a big deal if they're not super tight, especially when you open it, they kind of flop around a bit. So what we're going to do, first thing I'm going to do, because I'm going to be working with glue and stuff, and I don't want anything to stick to it, I'm just going to put down a sheet of waxed paper. To work on top of, so that it doesn't stick. Where's my back? There we go. So I just keep curling. Okay, so what I'm going to use to glue this together. On mine, I had used gel medium, just this kind of golden gel medium, and the pages didn't stick. I don't know if my gel medium might be old and it's a little dried out, so a regular gel medium may work. I'm not sure if it'll stick very well. So I'm actually going to use just regular tacky glue because it's thick. You want something that's thick because you don't want it to drip really down in between the pages, because then you won't be able to open it up well. So if I can get this to come out, the thing about tacky glue is it's stubborn. If I can get this to cooperate, you could probably use pretty much any kind of glue that you have that's on the thicker side. Come on. There we go. And I'm just going to go along this. Comes out kind of hard. I'm just going to run a fairly thick, not super thick, but relatively thick layer along this. And then what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take it on the top of my page, on the top of my wax paper, and just kind of rub it in a little bit so it covers all of my edges. I think we need a little more than that. You don't want it dripping down in between your pages, so don't hold it up this way for too long. You just want it to hold the ends of the pages together. So kind of squeeze it a little. And you could use a brush or something. You could even just use your finger. Probably use my fingers to smooth it out. Just to make sure that's all glued down nice and tight. And then I'm going to spread this out over my edges just a little bit. So what I'm going to do to extra reinforce my edge is I'm going to use some washi tape to create the binding of it so that you don't have all this glue on the end. And the reason I'm not waiting until it's dry to do this is because I want the tape to stick really well. This stuff takes forever to come out. Okay. Put a little extra on so that I can rub it on the edges. I'm just going to rub this down the edges a bit. Not a lot because you probably won't be able to paint over this, but just enough to reinforce your tape. And then choose a fairly wide washi tape. I'm going to use this one. This is Tim Holtz washi tape. And get it about the size. It doesn't matter what's on it because it's really just, you're going to cover over it, so it's really just there for binding. You could also use a piece of paper and glue it down, whatever you have. Come on. Okay. Line it right up. Doesn't matter if it goes over the edge because you can cut that off. Just make sure that you've got enough. Make sure it's nice and smooth on there and that you've got enough on either end to wrap around on either side. Make sure. Nice and flat. And then pull it down over your edges really good. Nice and tight. This way too. That's good. before I do anything else, I need to let this dry. I'm not even going to cut the edges off yet. All I'm going to do, this will take a couple hours probably to dry. I am going to put this on my wax paper, make sure it's not on top of any glue, and put some heavy books on top of it. I'm actually going to turn it, I'm going to fold my wax paper over this so that it doesn't get anything on my books. Put on something heavy and let it dry. I'm going to put a couple more things on there. So that's what I'm doing. Just letting that dry for a few hours, and then I will come back when I'm done and probably do a separate video of my cover and how I decorated it. So thank you for watching, and I'll be back in another video. Bye!